Some grudges are as old as time. They linger, they fester, and they never seem to go away, till they boil over into battles. And some battles have a way of repeating themselves, like Coombe Valley. And some enemies are just mortal enemies no matter what. But is it always the case? That's what we discover in Thud, book 34 of Terry Pratchett's Discworld, and again, back in the Discworld, another fantastic Terry Pratchett book. And what happened many miles away in Coombe Valley many, many years ago is come to Ankh Morpork. As the war between trolls and dwarfs, natural enemies. Dwarfs are these short little stocky balls of muscle that, like to dig holes in the ground. And trolls in certainly the Discworld are like sapient rocks, basically, with diamonds in their mouths for teeth. So kind of got a bit of natural enemy in there. Thud is a game. It's a game a bit like chess or war or something like that. It's a bit of a chain. But Thud, it was the sound the heavy club made as it connected with the head. The body jerked and slumped back, and it was done. Unheard, unseen, the perfect end, a perfect solution, a perfect story. But as the dwarfs say, where there is trouble, you will always find a troll. The troll saw. But basically, as the anniversary of Coombe Valley is coming up in Ankh Morpork, it's got the trolls and the dwarfs stirred up a little bit. But it's not the only thing that's going on in Ankh Morpork at this time. They've hired as an equal opportunity employer, the Watch has to hire a vampire. Commander Vimes gets sort of bullied into it, you might say. And for a reasonably understanding man, although not always understanding, as a reasonably understanding man, he's got werewolves, he's got many dwarfs, many trolls, gnomes, even gargoyles in the Watch, golems, even a zombie he's got in the Watch. But he doesn't really like vampires. He very much doesn't like vampires. But he gets one. A young officer, Sally's come down from Uberworld and wants to be a watchman. So, and the story sort of begins, you think this is what it's going to be about. This, having to tolerate Sally, where's this going to lead? And she's very relevant, and her and Angwar's the werewolf, are natural enemies, that's old as time. Certainly other offshoots have captured that magic of werewolves and vampire enemies. So you think that's going to be where the story lies, but it's the trolls and the dwarfs rehashing Coombe Valley, and it breaks off when a crag, like a sort of spiritual leader of the dwarfs, is killed in one of the mines, and they go in to investigate, and they sort of have to barge their way into this place, and it turns out that they are mining under Ankh Morpork, like heavily mining. There's almost another city under Ankh Morpork. Now, Ankh Morpork is built on, every time the river floods, the Ankh River, which you can basically walk across because it's not pleasant. It's like the Yarra River. Every time that sort of floods up and buries the Ankh, they've just sort of built on top. So there is actually like a city under the city, and then the dwarfs have been mining out into that, and they're looking for something, and then they're covering up the murder, and that's bothering Commander Vimes, Samuel Vimes, who's... It's even his city, no matter what depth, and a crime is a crime no matter what depth. And so that's where the tensions start. Then there's the tensions over, the animosity over the dwarfs and that centuries-old history of violence and prejudice, and it's all mixing into this melting pot of this perfect Discworld story. And there's other offshoots. There's a hilarious, brilliant offshoot of Nobby Nobb's dating life. I've sort of touched on these in one of the earlier things in his Feminine Whales in I forget which one it was when he had to disguise himself as a woman, and yeah. So he's got himself a girlfriend. He had a girlfriend who was a fishmonger and a Verity Pushpram, I think was her name, and used to throw fish at him and stuff, and he's sort of ditched her for another young lady who's upset poor Fred Colin because she's a dancer. She's a pole dancer. I'll spoil that one for you. She's a pole dancer, and the hilarity of Fred's prudishness at that. Nobby's a ardent believer that it's art. Pole dancing is a form of art, as most perverts would like to convince us. I think there is an element of artisticness in it, but she does pole dance, for sweaty men in a gentleman's club. So I don't know how much artistic you can really claim on that. If you think so, I won't argue with you. But yeah, the hilarity of Fred sort of browbeating Nobby Nobbs for dating this gorgeous pole dancer. And when Angmar and Sally, the vampire, sort of have a bit of a mishap and wind up in the go-go thing and get to know her, that it's the jerk theory on why Nobby Nobbs, this human who has a piece of paper to say he's human, managed to get this very perfect looking young lady. But yeah, so there's that kind of fun hilarity, the backdrop of dealing with the speciesism and the prejudice of that, and the war, the impending war, which blows up. It's one thing when they're killing themselves, and they are killing themselves. The dwarfs they've blamed a troll, and there's they've found the troll club, so that. But then there's this is a little bit of a spoiler. They do find more dwarfs, and it all goes back to the history of Coombe Valley and what's going on there. And they cross a line and force Sam's hand. Sam Vimes is one of those hard-edged, uncorruptible, bitter, do things right, rough characters, even though he's a bit reluctant to do. He's not your typical good guy hero. That was Carrot, and that's where the story should have been. But, Vimes captured Terry's heart in ways you couldn't imagine way back in Guards. And yes, and that's why I think the stories are certainly better. Terry would certainly agree, and that's why he wrote them that way. And, as a writer, when you realise your characters are grabbing hold and the story's taking care of itself, you just follow that thread. And Terry did that and admitted that. Yeah. So Sam's, he's a simple man. He, began as a drinker. He's certainly evolved a lot to be the captain of the Night's Watch, to the captain of the Watch, to the commander Vimes, to a duke. Reformed his drinking, met the Lady Sybil, and now he just wants to be a good father and a good family man and uphold the law, because he still believes in the law. And making sure he gets home to read to young Samuel Vimes at 6 o'clock each night, to read him his bedtime story, Where's My Cow? But the dwarfs, there's prejudice even in the dwarfs. There's the city dwarfs, there's the mountain dwarfs, the deep, the city dwarfs have assimilated, but the mountain dwarfs, the deep dive dwarfs, don't like these modern dwarfs, and so there's a bit of all that going on. And despite the fact that it's often thought that the dwarfs all come from the mountains, there's actually more dwarfs in Ankh Morpork now than probably in the mountains. So yeah, there's a bit of all this tension going on from this way and that. And there's some brilliant scenes with Detritus the Troll and Chrysoprase is a gangster troll, and yeah, and coaxing Sam into dealing with that, and typical Terry Pratchett book with the brilliant jokes, an intriguing story. They're all mysteries. There's always something going on. What's, who's behind it? There's. If you put these stuff in real world, they'd be best-selling crime novels, But he's magicked them up. He's put all this satire and puns in it, and just created this magical, incredible world. Oh, and the gooseberry. Oh my god, I can't believe I almost forgot this. So, for a couple of books, Sam's had this disorganizer, and he just basically doesn't deal with them. He's smashed them, he's thrown them into the ocean, and Sybil keeps getting him new ones, and he tried to get rid of this one, and it's a imp in a little box, and it's like an organizer, very something similar to a blackberry, if you remember what those are. It's a gooseberry. I forget why it called it a gooseberry, but that's the take on it. And he actually figures out how to use it a little bit and make it work for it. But even the fun with that is just brilliant, It does go over a couple of books, and this is the first book he actually cottons on that these things can be useful. But it calls him insert name here because he's never acknowledged it. He never read the manual. He just threw the manual out. It's just this pain in the ass thing that he's being given that he deals with until this book, when he actually learns it and learns how to make use for it. That's just Terry Pratchett. There's so many little Easter eggs in all of these novels, just brilliant little things going on under the surface. And I try to share, this is a fantastic book, gotta read it, which I 100% agree. I try not to give too much away, but there's so much quirkiness in these books, and so many little, like I said, Easter eggs, little gems hidden here and there and everywhere. You could never really, unless I just read you the book, give it all away. But yeah, 100% worth read. Thud, Discworld, book 34, Terry Pratchett. Jump on board, people. Jump on board. They are fantastic books. Like you cannot go wrong with Terry Pratchett's Discworld. They are brilliant, brilliant books. Happy reading. Subscribe and follow for more.